point is, look, you're still building your politics around slicing and dicing people into these fixed categories. Democrats need to get the memo that you can't win elections anymore by automatically assuming you're going to get every voter who's not these guys. The more you obsess over identity, the more you ignore the bread and butter issues that win and lose elections. Caitlyn Jenner is a pro-Trump trans woman who supports a ban on trans athletes competing in women's sports. And there's even an LGBTQ organization called Gays for Trump. And why wouldn't there be? Gays love drag queens.
Bill Maher is on a scorching rampage once again, ripping into the Democrats for their relentless obsession with identity politics. A ticking time bomb that could destroy their chances in the 2028 elections. In a blistering episode of Real Time, with Bill Maher, the unfiltered comedian delivered a no-holds-barred takedown of the decade-long circus of virtue signaling, wrapping it all in biting humor and brutal common sense.
I do give a shit who wins the next election. And outdated racial pandering is one reason Democrats lose elections. When Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi put on kente cloth, I don't think it earned them one vote for their powerful emotional ties to Ghana. Here in California, we're now segregating kidnapping. Really, California doesn't just have Amber Alerts for missing children. We have Ebony Alerts for black children and Feather Alerts for Native American kids. What is that? We look for them by listening on the ground?
Now, this is hilarious, but also deeply disturbing. Bill Maher with that trademark smirk.
With surgical wit, Maher posed a question that left the room stunned. So, I'd really like to know, what's the code name for missing Caribbean American children? Or Asian American children? The silence was deafening. Once again, the left's obsession with identity politics had crossed a line. This time into the absurd territory of racializing child abductions. Why on earth are we segregating missing children by ethnicity? Maher doesn't just question it. He tears it apart piece by piece with the kind of sharp, irreverent commentary that leaves no sacred cow unbarbecued. He's not just making the audience laugh. He's exposing the lunacy, turning chuckles into gasps.
Look, even if you like identity politics, this kind of thing is antiquated. From 2010 to 2020, the number of people identifying as multiracial in America went up 276%. 1 in 5 newlyweds now are in an interracial marriage, and that number goes up to 100% in ads for Subaru. You couldn't do a remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner today because almost 100% of Americans approve of interracial marriage, especially with rich in-laws. And 95% of white women would leave their husband to marry Idris Elba.
This segment is pure fire.
With surgical wit, Maher posed a question that left the room stunned. So I'd really like to know, what's the code name for missing Caribbean American children? Or Asian American children? The silence was deafening. Once again, the left's obsession with identity politics had this segment is pure fire. Maher doesn't just criticize identity politics, he eviscerates it. With surgical sarcasm, he exposes the DNC's favorite playbook for what it truly is.
Idris Elba, who says, as humans, we are obsessed with race, and that obsession can really hinder people's aspirations. Actress Raven-Symoné agrees. She told Oprah, I'm tired of being labeled. I'm not an African American. I'm an American. She says, I don't know what country in Africa I'm from. My roots are in Louisiana. And you don't have to agree with that. But it's a point of view a lot of people have. It should be respected. Morgan Freeman says the way to finish off racism is stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man, and I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. There's even a movement now to ban racial questions on the census, and many of its leaders are people of color, like Professor Sheena Mason, who says to undo racism, we have to undo our belief in race.
With surgical wit, Maher posed a question that left the room stunned. So, I'd really like to know, what's the code name for missing Caribbean American children or Asian American children? The silence was deafening. Once again, the left's obsession with identity politics had Maher warns that clinging to this fractured narrative won't unite us. It will bury us beneath a mountain of meaningless labels. America was once a melting pot.
.org formed in 1998 to urge Republicans to move on from the Clinton impeachment. Today's Democrats should move on from identity politics. It's not working. It's not working for them or for us. Democrats are hemorrhaging the very voters they think they're pandering to. The Financial Times writes, Democrats are going backwards faster with voters of color than any other demographic, and suggests the reason is that a less racially divided America is an America where people vote more based on their beliefs than their identity. Exactly. Far-left liberals are living in an old paradigm. Americans don't fit into neat little boxes anymore. Who has the #1 country song right now? Beyonce.
With surgical wit, Maher posed a question that left the room stunned. So, I'd really like to know, what's the code name for missing Caribbean American children or Asian American children? The silence was deafening. Once again, the left's obsession with identity politics had records now reveal a quiet political earthquake shaking the Democratic stronghold. Black voters are leaving the party. In 2020, Donald Trump earned 12% of the black vote. By 2024, that number surged to 22%, according to a USA Today Suffolk University poll, nearly doubling in just 4 years. It's an exodus the mainstream media won't touch. Why? Because places that once bled blue are turning red, not out of love for Republicans, but out of frustration with identity politics that have festered into something toxic. What began